Hey everyone, welcome to Agate Alternative. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I made this druid themed staff as a present for my dad. I'll cover all aspects, including harvesting, carving, sanding, waxing, wrapping, and adding the little dangly bits at the end. But I do want to acknowledge that the music today is going to be a little bit different. I love editing to all kinds of different music, especially this kind of stuff. So, okay, I've chosen the staff. Next thing is to cut it to length. I have read that for a hiking stick, you want it to be about 6 to 8 inches above your elbow. Let me just check. Yeah, 6 to 8 inches, which is 15 to 20 centimeters above your elbow. So imagine normal walking stick is at that height, hiking stick is just a bit higher because it's helping you push yourself up the hill, and also when you're going down the hill you want to be able to feel your way down potentially. My dad is a little bit taller than me. I am 5'8" if you ask me, 5'7" if you ask my wife, and my dad's about 6'1", so that's where obviously I'll measure it to myself and then add on the right amount of inches. As it turns out, that should hopefully be perfect because this is almost perfectly straight other than this little bit here. So instead of trying to bend that back to shape, hopefully that's pretty much going to be the distance. And then that should work out about right. Because this is quite a delicate bark, I don't want to go in and really start scratching or carving away straight away. So I've got different brushes. This is just sort of quite a soft bristle brush up to these smaller ones here that are made of, I believe that's like copper or just harder plastic material. So I'm going to work just that first, clean everything up, specifically this bit here, because my aim aesthetically for this staff is to definitely keep this natural portion here. This is why I chose this staff. I'm hoping that what I might do, like with this wand, you might have seen the wand video that I made. I really like how this spiral has come out. After watching other wand videos, it's quite a simple effect, and a simple skill to achieve. And that's why this is my very first staff. This is going to be a beginner's project. But I'm thinking I'm going to try and accentuate this spiral so that it goes and carves into the staff, down the staff. Now, it's not really thick, so I'm not going to go really deep into the staff itself. Otherwise, obviously, it potentially will lose its integrity and not be as strong. So, plan for today is to give everything a brush down, get away all of the loose bits of bark. Then I've got a new tool using this. This is a spoke shave. This was £7 from the local hardware store. I'll be using this spoke shave to do the majority of the material because it's going to be quite tricky to use my knife. I could use my knife and do it all, but I'm thinking if I prop this up against something like this, I can then spoke shave because I'm just using this, bracing this against my body and then against the side of the shed. And yeah, that would be a lot easier and easier for me to be fairly uniform, I think. And then after that, using the carving knife to carve in the spiral. And then at that point, I'm going to hopefully figure out what else I'm doing and we'll go from there. I've also got some chisels with me and my hand axe, but I'm hoping that I shouldn't need to use those. Maybe the chisels at a later date or some of the gouges to do some of the decorative stuff. But like I said, from now, it's just going to be brush, spoke shave, and then start carving. Let's get going. Okay, straight away I've realised these softer brushes aren't enough. Let's go straight up to the metal brush. So pretty. I love how these colours have come out. Can you see that there? Right. Just where some of the bark's peeled off, some of the bark hasn't. Then you've got the really gnarled bit where it's been damaged by the honeysuckle that's growing around it. It's just, yeah, just nature is so beautiful as is. And that's why that's the challenge for today's project, is to try and accentuate that rather than detract from that. So that was quite a bit more challenging than I was expecting it to be. I definitely need to work out a better system for holding things in place and kind of carving safely. So I've spoke shaved, used my carving knife to take off the rest of the material. Next though is doing the spiral. And the way I'm going to do that is just to continue it with a pencil and go as far as I want to go, which I think will probably only be sort of 3 or 4 turns. I don't want to go too far because then I've got a plan for how to hold this in. I'm not going to put a metal bit on the bottom. I'm going to carve into this bit and then wrap it with some kind of cordage that then kind of holds that in place and hopefully stops it cracking up the shaft. But for now, continue this spiral. So I've marked it out with pencil. Next stage is doing the V-cut. And the way that you do that is by pressing down. It's kind of like a stop cut, if you've heard of that, and that's by pressing down with your knife. And then after that, using a thumb push, you're going in at one side of the mark, flipping it over, and then pushing in at the other side of the mark. And the reason that you press down first of all, just like a stop cut, is that you'll feel it kind of click and press into that space, and that stops gouging and not really doing it properly. You're just stopping and stopping and stopping and stopping and cutting it down and continuing that V as deep as or as shallow as you want to go. And that's what's next for me. Lots and lots of V-cut, making the spiral in the stuff.
Sometimes when you're here, I can feel no doubt, 'cause
This doesn't look weird at all, does it? Quick little tip to do this spiral bit. I've done the V-cut. Get a stick that you're happy with the diameter. Get your piece of sandpaper, wrap it, not all the way around, because then when one bit wears out, you just move it a little bit, and then lots and lots of that. And yeah. I don't know how to end this sentence, so Time for a brief interjection. If you're interested in the staff video, feel free to skip, because what I'm about to tell you about has nothing to do with that. But what it does have to do with is why it looks like this behind me now. So I'd finished the other day, I'd done a lot of the sanding, it was time to go in and get some dinner. Last thing I did was just brush myself off. Now, there's a job that I should have done ages ago. You all know it, if you're like me. There's a job that your partner is like, you come on, you need to go get that thing done, and you just keep putting it off and putting it off. For me, that was getting my wedding ring resized, because if my hands are cold, for example, or they're sandy, and therefore it's basically like having some kind of talcum powder on my hands, my ring comes off quite easily. And when I shake my hands like this, or I brush myself off, the ring can come off, which it did. So I'm stood here, brushing myself off. All of a sudden I realise my ring's gone. I call Alicia instantly and I'm like, come down here. I'm stood in the exact same place. I'm like, I haven't moved. My ring has disappeared. We search for maybe half an hour before it's time to go in. Dinner's cooking. So we have to just give up. I go inside, I have my dinner, I come back out, I work for another few hours. It is nowhere to be seen. And as you can remember, all of what's like this here, this was all here too. All of this around here, around me, and then this bit right here was all like that. So I spent that night clearing up. After that night, I then ended up researching how to find, like how best to find it. Metal detector came up, so luckily I was able to borrow one from a friend the next day. But what that meant is I spent the night just a bit feeling anxious and stressing about, you know, what a stupid mistake I'd made. And then I came back and I spent again the evening clearing away to then go through with a metal detector. It's actually a pinpoint one where you're sort of going over the specific bit. This is also full of metal and different bits and pieces, so therefore that wasn't too easy either. But I got to here. I'd spent the best part of, I don't know, 6 hours working my way around. I'd got to here and had finally found it. So what's the moral of the story? If you're like me and there's that job that you keep putting off, you know you need to do it, and you know that the ramifications, if whatever happens, if you don't do that job, could be dire, just go do it. Yeah. From one Egypt who should have done something years ago to another. You know what I mean. You know that job. It might not be a wedding ring. It might be something completely different, but you know the job that I'm talking about. Use this as a reminder to just go get that job done. Okay. Now we've finished that little story, I can clear up first and then continue with the sanding. Hush. Next stage of the process, and this is where I'm going to try and challenge myself. Good quote of the day, actually, this came from one of my mentors, is that you need to constantly be challenging yourself and trying something new on every single project. Today, this is a brand new thing, and instead of trying something, for example, like in this project that I have done before, I'm happy, I know this will work. I've tried it before on some of the wands. If you're interested, I've done my journey into wand making video. Another thing that I'd like to try today, this was my first ever kind of staff, and this was some cordage that I made from the willow bark from this, and then did a little handle. I learned something on that, and I'm quite happy with how that came out, and potentially something to try again. But today, I've got my goodies to try out. Things like this is from a charity shop find. I was gifted a load of like scrap bits of leather. I've got what I've been given, so therefore it might not necessarily be the right length, so it's kind of working that things out. Or maybe even trying to incorporate something like extra pieces. So for example here, this has been one that has been, I kept it, I think I've had this for maybe, I don't know, 2 years, maybe 3 years. And it's been something in mind like, oh, I love some of the, just how this grows. And it just, I know it's going to be a handle somewhere along the lines. Or my thoughts are maybe like a kind of hand guard, like a knuckle guard, so that the handle will be like this, and then the guard, and then it's almost like a guard. And then another thing that I have tried in the past, and I know I'm happy with how it works, but maybe I can try using it in a slightly different way today, is spruce root. Plan now is to take off any bark that I need to. Do a bit of carving at the top, but not much, because then I think with this one, it's going to be about adding stuff to it. I think my dad will really quite like the more is more kind of ethos. And that's what I want this. I love how this maybe will then develop, that this top bit ends up really busy and kind of over the top, and maybe I have extra things hanging off of it, and then as it slowly gets down, it goes to the bark and then smooths out, and then that's where it ends up with this really nice white smooth wood itself. And then that will be a nice kind of transition of textures as well. Time to crack on. Okay, so I've reached a point where I'm going to start adding things to this now. So what I'm going to do before that, I've got this bit here that I've made fit. Where are we? Like this. And then that's going to be wrapped on, but basically the reason I carved these out is just to kind of help hold it in place. But before I go doing that, I need to wax and kind of finish off what I'm not going to be able to get access to later on. So the wax that I've got is from Journeyman Handcrafts. This isn't necessarily a wood wax, it's actually for leather or waxed canvas, and it's a combination of beeswax and almond oil. And the way I just use it is literally by just like this. It's not going to change the colour too much. I'm hoping with the bark it will bring out the colour quite nicely, but it's not going to change, especially this white bit of wood, not going to change too much. What I do end up doing that I forgot to mention is basically by adding this, I'm got it on my hands. Obviously my hands are, you know, naturally a bit greasy anyway, so the tackiness kind of stays on my hands. What I normally do is cover the entire thing, whether that be staff, wand, whatever, basket, and then using a rag that's not going to leave residue, just finish it off by again just giving it a wipe. And actually I think you can see, well I can, hopefully you can in the light, can you see a difference there from this piece which has been waxed compared to this bit that's not waxed yet, or that bit as well. So not waxed, waxed. What I've done here as well is I've sanded it up to a certain point, so I'm hoping again not only does it gradually go from the bark to the inner wood, because I've sanded it, again it goes from smooth bark to then the rougher natural bark here. Again, hopefully my aim is just there's a nice variation of textures within the final piece. Okay, all done. Really happy with how that's come out. I just love how that's darkened. So now this is using a cordage that I made. That's a 3-ply cordage made of soft rush. If you're interested, I have made a video about how to make cordage out of soft rush. What I'm going to do now is make this bit, fill in this bit here with the soft rush. Again, I'm not an expert with knots, so I'm just going to start off with a really simple where I'm just going to go over itself a few times, tie it as tight as I can, and then I'm just going to, like I say, tie it nice and tight at the start, and then just go around and keep it as tight as I possibly can, going all the way around until I get to the end and tie that off. So I'm not loving how this is ending, but And now I'm about to put on this extra piece here. So I'm going to use some of this excess that I've got to continue and technically end up tying this to the bit that's going to be the handguard as well, so that it sort of flows and also hopefully keeps the strength going between handle and this and stops this from loosening up. But pretty happy with that. What do you reckon? Pretty happy? Pretty happy? I forgot this bit. And the way that I'm going to tie this one on is similar to how I did these ones here. So how I did this bit, this one, and again at the bottom. Get your cord, put it into a loop like this. So obviously one end sticking out, one end continuing. I know it's going to be this length, so I want to leave myself a little bit of cordage at the bottom because I'm going to grab that later on. I need to pull it, so you don't want only a tiny bit left. You put it with the top of the loop at one end, and then you're just going round and round and round and round and round all the way to the top, and then you're going to end up tucking the longer piece back through the loop, and then you pull the bottom, and that pulls everything down. Let's attempt this on camera. It's quite fiddly to try and show you guys what I'm doing at the same time. And although you want to keep it tight, you don't want to tie it really tight, because that'll make this, when you do the final tightening process, that'll make that bit really hard. I've done that before on wraps where I've spent ages wrapping it, keeping it really tight, and then I've not actually been able to finish it off and tighten it up, and I've had to loosen everything again. All the way to the top, like so. Back through the loop. And then now I can grab the end and it should pull in. And then there you go, pulls everything nice and tight. And then just a case of cutting off the loose bits. Right, back to the top. Together. I didn't think I'd like this, and I don't love it because this isn't real leather, but I do like how the buckle has ended up there. It'd be better if it was gold or brass, sorry. But that's the point. This is, you know, reused, and hopefully it's going to find a new home and be loved somewhere else. So I'm really liking that. I'm really liking that. The wraps just kind of add that texture, and how it's gone from this bit here and just evolved up the top. Now, how to finish off? I'm thinking some kind of dangly something or other. That sounds right, doesn't it? It sounds like I know what I'm doing. Guess what, Echo? I think it's done. Oh, she's not interested. Okay, shut your eyes. Pretend that you haven't already seen this. Pretend
never seen this.
This is absolutely brand new to you.
Okay.
Ready? Here you go. Your druid.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Staff.
I can use that when I'm wandering around Tibet.
Yeah. Or just the beach, you know, anything.
Or just the beach, yeah.
What are your first thoughts? What do you think?
It's great.
Are there any bits and pieces that you...
It's exactly what I wanted. I asked you to make me some things to put on my wall because I want the wooden, the earthy feel to my room, and that's what you've done.
And I was hoping...
And obviously anything you create.
Yeah, anything I create, which is why the first time I do something...
This is why I've still got stickers on my fridge of a hand with different colours.
Yeah, so you get the first attempt that's kind of works, kind of, you know, it's okay. And then when the good attempts is then maybe get sold, okay?
Bit like the bird feeder that when a bird landed on it fell apart.
Yeah. So now what we're going to do, to show the kind of hero shots of it finished, it just so happens we are going on a few days away,
Yep.
off to the beach.
Yep.
So we'll cut now to you on the beach
Yep.
doing your best impression
And this
of a
can-
travelling wizard.